And I did. I got up, I grabbed journals off my bookcase. I grabbed a pen, I grabbed my beach chair, I grabbed Cheetos because I love Cheetos. They're my thinking food. And so I grabbed the Cheetos and I went over to Bird Park. And I sat there all afternoon. Now I thought that I was going to go through my journals and pull stuff, but I just sat there and looked. I was just sitting there, and the first thing that I wrote was, I've been in this place before. It's hard, but I don't want to stay here. So I've got to figure out what to do in order to get out of it. That place was like, now I realize it was dark. It was dark, but I didn't know how to get out of it. And then there was a truck that was there when I got there, and probably an hour and a half later, somebody came and used jumper cables on it, and the truck drove off, and I said, you need to carry your jumper cables with you at all times. So that is permission granted. I mean, I wrote a journal, and I have 52 epiphanies, and they're just thoughts that came up while I was sitting out there for probably 3 or 4 hours, just watching the water and just thinking, and I would write. And so I published it, and it's still on Amazon.com now, 52 epiphanies, so it's permission granted. Anyway, the blessing, because you can't stop. You can't just stop. If you stop, you won't move again. So the blessing was that I finally said, girlfriend, you got to figure out what you're going to do next. And I ended up going over to Richmond Hill, which is a spiritual place, a major, a wonderful place where you can just go in and just spend time finding out about yourself. So I found out about a course they were offering called RUAH, R-U-A-H, which is breath. And it's the School of Spiritual Direction. Now, I didn't know anything about spiritual direction. We're Baptists. I didn't know about that. But I didn't have anywhere else to go. I mean, I did not know where else to go. And I went over there, and Reverend Ben Campbell happened to be at the door and let me in. And he said, hey, girl, what are you doing here? And well, I'm just crying now because I don't know where else to go, and I think RUAH may help. And he said, this is where you need to be. And so I got in that class, and that was 2 years. We had to spend one night a month over there, a Saturday and a Sunday. There was a lot of prayer. There was a lot of interacting amongst our peers, but there was a lot of silence. And I had been thinking about silence for a while. I mean, people that I knew did silence, or they meditated, but I hadn't ever practiced it. One of the assignments that we had to do while we were at RUAH in those 2 years was to spend 24 hours in silence 6 times. So I did 3 in my first year, and I did 3 in my second year. And it was the silence that made the difference. And to this day, I am grateful for that silence, because that's when I connected with my Creator. And I don't know a lot of, I don't memorize a lot of scripture, but Jeremiah 29:11 is my scripture, because it says, for I know the plans that I have for you, and they are for good and not for evil. And so if God already has this plan, I don't really need to do a whole lot but follow it. But in order to follow it, I have to listen to him every day, because he's got plans for me every day. So the readings that I had, the silence that I had, he just spoke to me in so many different ways, in songs and in words. And I know that everybody hears God differently. Sometimes it's a whisper, and if I don't write it down, I won't remember it, But I got in the habit in 2010 of being silent in the morning, of being silent at least 15 minutes, and then it was 20 minutes, and now it's 30 minutes. But what I do is journal first, because there's so much in our head. And so if we can journal and begin to put those thoughts on paper, we make room for new thoughts for today. And so I journal first, and then I read something,